Just break it up. The hour's late.
So,
what are you doing, Martin?
it's actually recording.
We can record.
Sorry?
We can record. Right?
You can do what?
Record.
Cool. Oh, yeah.
Since we're in refreshment.
Yeah. It's always public.
Is this you?
Yes.
No, it's okay. I'll move it to the side.
Okay, thank you so much.
You can put some over here if you want.
Marty, we could kind of just split things up and some people have there.
We can easy.
You want to do some of them?
Sure. It doesn't matter where they stand.
Jones, maybe on this side then.
It doesn't matter where they stand. If they know the position, they'll stand up.
Officers.
Hayden is like the last one of the appointed.
Are you meaning this? You install something? Where did that happen?
Just 2 minutes ago. 5 minutes ago.
You will know. So,
These guys are doing it. All we got to worry about is easy peasy.
Is that your regular hat?
No, this is my Royal Arch hat.
Oh, okay.
Is there a hat ready for Joshua?
Yeah, his is
Oh, okay. It should be on the other side.
That's the derby. It should be here. I sit.
Brother Master of Ceremonies, are the officers of this lodge lately chosen present and ready to be installed in their respective offices?
They are, worshipful sir, and await your pleasure.
In accordance with the teachings of our institution, it is our duty before entering upon any great or an important undertaking to invoke the aid and blessing of God. Let us therefore reverently unite with our chaplain in the address to the throne of grace.
Great architect and ruler of the universe, we reverently invoke thy blessing at this time. Grant us thine aid in our present undertaking, that all we may do shall be done with an eye single to thy service and to the good of Freemasonry. May those who are now about to be invested with the government and conduct of this lodge be endued with wisdom to instruct their brethren in their duties, and may they be continually guided by the unerring counsel which thou hast given in the great book of nature and revelation. May brotherly love, relief, and truth always prevail among the members of this lodge. May they be impressed with the comprehension of their duty to thee and to each other, that this lodge may be the means of lasting good in this community, and to thee we shall ascribe all the honor and glory. Amen.
So what did we... Thank you, worshipful brother installing chaplain. No, because it's So just a quick point, we are at refreshment, so remember no signs are to be given. So consider this also still We are in a lodge room, so govern yourselves according to that point. If you didn't hear our walkthrough a while ago, when your officer position is called, you will meet our Master of Ceremonies right here in the front of the east, and then he will point you towards your position. You will walk yourself there. Besides the Master, he'll get the full escort. All right.
Worshipful Sir, the officers of this lodge lately chosen are present and ready to be installed in their respective offices.
You will then present the brother who has been appointed Tyler of this lodge.
Worshipful Sir, I present to you for installation Worshipful Brother Roberto Diaz, Jr., who has been appointed Tyler of this lodge.
Brother Diaz, you have been appointed Tyler of this lodge, and you will now be invested with the jewel and implement of your office. As the sword is placed in the hands of the Tyler to enable him to effectively to guard against the approach of cowards and eavesdroppers, and suffer none to pass or repass, except such as are duly qualified, should it admonish us to set a guard over our thoughts, a watch at our lips, and post a sentinel over our actions, thereby preventing the approach of every unworthy thought and deed, and preserving the consciences void of offense towards God and man. You will now repair to your proper place. Brother Master of Ceremonies, you will present the organist.
Worshipful Sir, I present to you for installation Worshipful Brother Jack Burrows, who has been appointed organist of this lodge.
Brother Burrows, you have been appointed organist of this lodge, and you will now be invested with the jewel of your office. The lyre is the jewel of your office, and it is an emblem of music. It should continually remind us that as harmony is essential in the liberal arts and sciences which it symbolizes, so should harmony continue to be the strength and support of all societies, especially of ours. Let harmony prevail. Brother Master of Ceremonies, you present the senior and junior stewards.
Worshipful Sir, I present to you for installation Brother Jason Kusing and Brother Renato Alvarez, who have been appointed senior and junior stewards.
Brothers Kusing and Alvarez, you have been appointed stewards of this lodge, and I will now instruct you in your duties. In olden times, your province was to superintend and provide for festivals of the craft, to assist in the collection of dues and subscriptions, to keep an account of the expenses of refreshment, and to see that the tables were properly supplied and every brother suitably provided for. In modern times, however, the provisions for actual refreshment has diminished, and your principal functions will now be to prepare candidates for admission and to perform those duties which Masonic custom has assigned to you on days of their procession. Receive the jewels of your office together with the white rods. You will now repair to your respective places. Brother Master of Ceremonies, you will present the marshal.
Worshipful Sir, I present to you for installation Worshipful Brother Gary Stevens, who has been appointed Marshal of this lodge.
Brother Stevens, you have been appointed Marshal of this lodge, and you will now be invested with the jewel and symbol of your lodge. The baton is an emblem of command and is sufficiently significant of your duties. You will, under the direction of the Master, take charge of all processions of the lodge, and you are enjoined that the proper performance of many of our ceremonies will depend upon the manner in which your duties are discharged. You will now take your proper place. For the Master of Ceremonies, you'll present the senior and junior deacons.
Worshipful Sir, I present to you for installation Worshipful Brother Vincent Chan and Brother Martin Chavez, who have been appointed senior and junior deacons of this lodge. This certificate vouches for the proficiency of the senior deacon.
Brother Chan and Brother Chavez, you have been appointed deacons of the lodge, and you will now be invested with the jewels of your office. Those jewels indicate that it is your providence to attend upon the masters and wardens and act as their proxies in active duties of this lodge. It will be your special duty, brother senior deacon, to carry orders from the worshipful master in the east to the senior warden in the west and elsewhere about the lodge as required. Attend to all alarms at the door of the preparation room, receive and conduct candidates, introduce and accommodate visiting brethren. You, brother junior deacon, to carry message from the senior warden in the west to the junior in the south and elsewhere about the lodge as directed. Attend to all alarms at the door and see the lodge duly tiled. Those rods, my brothers, distinctive of your office, will now be entrusted to your care. And now, believing from your past deportment in the lodge, and that your duties will be discharged with ability and zeal, I dismiss you to your respective places.
Brother Master of Ceremonies, you will introduce yourself as the Assistant Secretary.
Marty Husing, Assistant Secretary.
Brother Marty, you have been appointed Assistant Secretary of this lodge and you will now be invested with the jewel of your office. My brother, that single quill signifies that it is your duty to assist the Lodge Secretary in the discharge of the important duties of his office, and in his absence or inability to see them faithfully executed. You will now take your proper place.
Brother Master of Ceremonies, you will present the chaplain.
Worshipful Sir, I present to you Brother Aidan Cotter, who has been appointed chaplain of this lodge.
Brother, that holy book which adorns the sacred altar is the great light in masonry, and forever sheds its benign rays upon every lawful assemblage of free and accepted masons. Teach us from its life-giving precepts. Invoke upon our labors the blessings of the divine being whose infinite goodness is so fully reveals and unfolds to us, and guide us by its lessons of wisdom and truth, and you will have faithfully fulfilled your important trust. It is your duty to perform those solemn services which we should continually render to our great Creator, and reverently to allure the brighter worlds and lead the way. And thus, by elevating our thoughts, strengthening our virtues, and purifying our minds, prepare us for admission into the society of the blessed in the realms of life and light eternal. It is fitting that the emblem of the sacred volume should be the jewel of your office, and with it you will now be invested. You will now take your proper place. Brother Master of Ceremonies, you will present the Secretary-elect. We practice this promise.
Brother Exalting Officer, I present Worshipful Brother David Jolliffe,
Who's been elected?
who has been elected as Secretary for the Masonic Year.
Brother Jolliffe, you have been elected Secretary of the Lodge, and you will now be invested with the jewel of your office. I am persuaded that in your hands the pens will make an enduring record, not only to your praise, but also to the welfare of this lodge. It is your duty to observe the will and pleasure of the worshipful master, keep a faithful record of all things proper to be written, transmit a copy of the same to Grand Lodge when required, receive all monies from the brethren, pay the same to the treasurer, and take his receipt therefor. You will now take your proper place. Brother Master of Ceremonies, you will present the treasurer-elect.
Worshipful Sir, I present to you for installation Worshipful Brother David Jones, who has been elected treasurer of this lodge.
Brother Jones, you have been elected treasurer of this lodge, and you will now be invested with the jewel of your office. The keys have a twofold significance. They are instruments to bind as well as make loosen. You will make fast as well as to open. They will never, I am confident, be used by you in any other manner than that of which the Constitution, laws, and regulations of the lodge shall direct. You are to receive all monies from the secretary, keep a just and accurate account thereof, and pay the same out by order of the worshipful master, with the consent of the lodge. You will now take your proper place. Brother Master of Ceremonies, you will present the junior warden-elect.
Worshipful Sir, I present to you for installation Brother Robert White, who has been elected junior warden of this lodge. This certificate vouches for his proficiency.
Brother White, you have been elected junior warden of this lodge, and you will now be invested with the jewel of your office. To you is committed the superintendence of the craft during the hours of refreshment. It is necessary, therefore, that you should practice with moderation and discretion in the indulgence of your own inclinations, and that you carefully observe that the means of refreshment are not converted to improper or excessive use. Your regular and punctual attendance is particularly requested, and I have no doubt that you will faithfully execute the duty of which you owe to your present appointment. Look well to the south. Brother Master of Ceremonies, you will present the senior warden-elect.
Worshipful Sir, I present to you for installation Worshipful Brother Joseph Becker, who has been elected senior warden. I think
He is of good morals.
he is a good moral, true and trusting, possesses the love and confidence of his brethren. I think he does. This certificate vouches for his proficiency.
Brother Becker, you have been elected senior warden of this lodge, and you will now be invested with the jewel of your station. The level, my brother, demonstrates that we are descended from the same stock, and that we partake of the same nature and share the same hope, and that although distinctions among men are necessary to preserve subordination, yet no eminence of the station should ever make us forget that we are brethren. And for he who is placed in the lowest spoke on fortune's wheel may be entitled to our regard, because a time will come, and the wisest know not how soon, when all distinction save of goodness shall cease, and death, the mighty leveler of human greatness, reduced us to the same state. Your regular attendance on our stated meetings is essential. In the absence of the master, you are to govern the lodge. In his presence, you are to assist him in the government of it. I firmly rely on your knowledge of masonry and attachment to the lodge, and for the faithful discharge of the duties of this important trust. Look well to the west. For the Master of Ceremonies, you will now present the brother who has been elected to discharge the important duties of Master of this lodge.
Worshipful Sir, I take pleasure in presenting to you Worshipful Brother Joshua Cousy, who has been duly elected to serve as Master of this lodge.
Is it known that Brother Cousy is well skilled in our ancient crafts? Is he zealous in the regard of the interest of our order? And is he duly qualified to discharge the special duties of the Master's chair?
It is well known that he is all this, Worshipful Sir. He is a good moral, true and trusty. This certificate vouches for his proficiency. This certificate
vouching for his certificate.
Vouching for his proficiency is evidence that he's well skilled in our ancient craft. He's a good morals, true and trusty, and as a lover of the fraternity, I doubt not that he will discharge his duties with fidelity and with honor.
Worshipful Sir, the brethren of this lodge, reposing confidence in your integrity, in your zealous regard for the interests of Masonry, and in your ability to discharge the duties of the Master's chair, have chosen you to occupy that honorable position during this ensuing year. Are you willing to accept this important trust?
I am.
Then, my brother, I shall most cheerfully proceed to install you in the dignified and honorable position in which your suffrage of your brethren has called you, not doubting that the dignity of the Oriental chair will be well preserved in your keeping, and that in the interest and welfare of the lodge may be safely confided to your charge. Before commencing your investiture, however, it is necessary that you should signify your assent to those ancient charges and regulations which point out the duties of the Master of the Lodge, and which on no account are ever to be neglected or departed from. They are as follows. You are to be a good man and true, and strictly obey the moral law. You are to agree to be a peaceable citizen and cheerfully conform to the laws of the country in which you reside. You promise not to be concerned in plots and conspiracies against government, but be patient to submit to the decisions of the Supreme Legislature. You agreed to pay a proper respect to the civil magistrate, to work diligently, live credibly, and act honorably by all men. You agreed to hold in veneration the original rulers and patrons of the Order of Masonry and their regular successors, supreme and subordinate, according to their stations, and to submit to the awards and resolutions of your brethren when convened, in every case consistent with the constitution of the order. You agree to avoid private piques and quarrels, and to guard against intemperance and excess. You agree to be cautious in carriage and behavior, courteous to your brethren, and faithful to your lodge. You promise to respect the genuine brethren and discountenance impostors and all dissenters from the original plan of Masonry. You agree to promote the general good of society, to cultivate the social virtues, and to propagate the knowledge of the art. You promise to pay homage to the Grand Master for the time being and his officers when duly installed, and strictly to conform to every edict of the Grand Lodge or General Assemblies of Masons that is not subversive to the principles and groundwork of Masonry. You admit that it is not in the power of any man or body of men to be innovations in the body of Masonry. You promise a regular attendance on the committees and communications of the Grand Lodge, on receiving proper notice, and to pay attention to all the duties of Masonry in convenient occasions. You admit that no new lodge should be formed without the permission of the Grand Lodge, and that no countenance should be given to any irregular lodge or any person clandestinely initiated therein, being contrary to the ancient charges of the order. You admit that no person can regularly be made a Mason in or admitted a member of any regular lodge without previous notice and due inquiry into his character. You agree that no visitors shall be received into your lodge without due examination and producing proper vouchers of their having been initiated in a regular lodge. These are among the ancient charges and regulations of free and accepted Masons, and to these your assent must be freely given. Do you submit to these charges and promise to support these regulations as masters have done in all ages before you?
I do.
Then, my brother, in consequence of this assurance, and with full confidence in your capacity and zeal, I will now install you as master of Burlingame Lodge number 400, or the master of ceremonies. You will invest him with the jewel of his station. The square, my brother, is an emblem of morality, and it is a special badge of the master's office. It should constantly remind you that not only by precept, but by example, you should promote good morals among the brethren, and thus endeavor to avert the shadows of any scandal or reproach against the fraternity. Your former life has given evidence that this jewel will not be an unmeaning symbol in your hands, and I solemnly charge you to take good care that its luster be not dimmed through any acts of yours. I now present to you the Book of Holy Writings. It is the great light of Masonry and should